This was Indi Gregory, an 8-month-old that passed away at the beginning of this week because the United Kingdom's government is wicked as hell. She had an incurable mitochondrial condition that caused her to need to stay on life support. And so the NHS, which is that medical system over there, they deemed that she did not need to stay on life support, and so they took her off of it. I think it was Sunday. Now, I thought this story was so interesting because it just opens up such a big can of worms and gets you talking about a lot of different things, like gets you talking about healthcare, gets you talking about the Catholic Church, gets you talking about parents' rights, talking about like who do these people think they are to take somebody off of life support? Like, I thought that the one who gives and takes life is the Lord. And so when it comes to the healthcare perspective of the story, they have centralized healthcare over there. And so healthcare is free. But you have a really long wait for a lot of things, and they can decide whether or not they want you to be on their system. So they can decide in a situation like this, whether or not they are going to even give you care because they're the ones who are paying for it. And, I find it so telling because so many ignorant Americans want our system to become like this. And they want our system to be centralized and free, basically. But it's not free because sometimes it'll cost you a life. And it's not even a vastly superior system. Just because you don't have to pay $35,000, for a broken leg doesn't mean that the system itself is superior. I'd pay anything if I'm getting better care, and some of the best hospitals in the world are still in America. The next aspect is that, this involves the Catholic Church because these people were Catholic, and the Vatican actually gave the green light to, bring the baby over there to Italy. And they were going to, pay for all the expenses and they were going to handle it. But the United Kingdom still turned them down for some reason just because they hate life because they're evil. And so I thought this was interesting because, one thing that is completely undeniable is that when it comes to the pro-life movement, the Catholics are at the forefront. There would be a very small pro-life movement if it were not for the Catholics. And I understand that and I respect that. Only problem with that is that they're not saved. And so, they want to pat themselves on the back and, have a round of applause for themselves because, the Vatican was doing something and that, they are the ones that are spearheading the pro-life movement. But at the end of the day, the way I see it, I am someone who is an evangelical Christian. And so I'm pro-life, of course. And when it comes to the Catholic Church, and I appreciate what they do, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if we outlaw abortion all over the world or if we save all the babies and no child is ever killed in another abortion ever again, if everybody dies and goes to hell. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, Catholics are not saved. Catholics are not on their way to heaven. There's never been a Catholic who made it into the pearly gates. They have to renounce that and start believing in legitimate Christianity. And so, being that the Catholics are so prominent in the pro-life movement and so adamant about it and do such good work, on this side of heaven, it is such a conflict because I want to rightfully say that, thanks, for the Vatican for wanting to save this baby because, if she had gotten over there, who knows how much longer she could have lived. But it's almost like a double-edged sword because right now, she's passed away. And so she goes right back up to heaven. But if she had lived and she had lived, for another 20, 30, 40 years, or she had lived out a normal lifespan, but she always in the back of her mind thought, oh, well, the Catholic Church is right because the Catholic Church is the one who saved me. And she trusted in that and she became a Catholic instead of a Christian, then she would die and go to hell. And so that is not good. And that didn't really save anything. And that only just prolonged something that really just kind of inverted the situation because now she's dead and she's in heaven, so she's not really dead. Versus her living out, her normal human life and then dying and go to hell. And so whenever it comes to things like this is always just so thought-provoking to me because it's just like, I love what they're doing. Like, I love the fact that Catholics, they're just so for the right to life and that they're so, pro-life and that's great and that's awesome. And it just makes me wonder, like, why aren't Baptists on this wave? Like, why are not Baptists leading the charge? Why aren't we bringing buses to marches and rallies and protests? And why aren't we outside of the abortion centers like, why are we dropping the ball on this when we're the ones who are pro eternal life? And so I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with like parents' rights, about what I was saying about, how their healthcare system is centralized. And so you kind of don't have the final say over someone's care because you're not providing the care. It's not something that you're paying for. And so, just when I heard about this, it just so enraged me because at the end of the day, what they did is murder. They are complicit in the murder of an 8-month-old. And God hates the NHS. God hates the United Kingdom's government because they shed innocent blood. And, they hurt children. And there's few things that God hates more than the shedding of innocent blood. And so this just enraged me, the fact that, there were people willing to help. There were people who were trying to step in, and they just said, no, we'll take it from here. We know what's best. And it's like, oh, I thought that she had parents, and the parents are supposed to know what's best, and the parents are to be the judges of what's best, not Big Daddy government. And so, man, pray for this family, and pray that, some real Christians will rise up in the United Kingdom and hopefully turn things around for however much time we have left.